I know I made a video yesterday, but I want to make one today as well. It just struck me that I was in the shower for like hours having a long conversation. Not hours, let's not go crazy here. For some time, for an extended duration of moments. I was in the shower just having a full-blown conversation with myself and also going, oh, for no reason at all. A lot. I think if I can unpackage my poor mind, I believe it started because I sing in the shower quite a lot, and there's a Crystal Ball song called Director's Cut. The chorus goes, oh, I rise and I dim and my curtain call. That's a completely different song. Okay. Director's Cut is a great song as well by Crystal Ball, but I'm thinking of Curtain Call. But I think at some point I just got bored singing the actual song, and so I just stuck with the oh bit, and then it devolved into not even hitting the melody anymore, and before you know it, I was just and having, quite frankly, the time of my life. So I kind of also wanted to do another video for slightly more difficult reasons. Not only was yesterday quite a challenging video to make, I wasn't terribly fond of how how it turned out. And it's one of those things where I'm not going to pick apart and say I did it wrong or anything like that. It was just, it's a very difficult subject that can be very much affected by what mood I'm in and at what time I'm doing it. And there is still the subject of masking that concerns me a lot. The thing is, as I said a few videos ago, I feel like I'm meeting myself for the first time in like 20 years since this whole sort of autism thing began. Since I'm reading into it and researching into it and understanding how it works, and understanding that that I am most likely it makes the mask come off and makes me experience what it's like having the mask off. And the good thing is, the good thing is that I have moments where I'm in the shower going, oh, and I feel great in that moment. It is like my soul is returning to my body, for better or for worse. It's very sorry, neighbours. But it also means that there's gonna be moments where it's the mask is coming off and on. And yesterday I felt like I was, not that we're gonna grade it by percent, but I felt like I was partially masked yesterday, and that is that out of body experience of being worried about how you're explaining something, how you're treating something, especially when you're talking about something like self-harm. Because honestly, I can just crack up laughing when I'm talking about that sort of stuff. That's how I naturally prefer to talk about it. And it's not me making a joke of it. It's not me trying to dampen the situation, but it's just because that's how my mind works. I like to, I guess I just feel like emotional engagement for me, a large part of my emotional engagement is a form of masking, because I'm trying to convince people that I'm not a cold-hearted bastard. Even though, if you understand this, which many of you do, I'm not, and it's because, from what I'm reading, just the way someone who's on the spectrum may deal with their emotions just in a different way. Like, it's not that they are less emotional or anything like that, but they deal with them in a different way. And that's been a lifelong issue of mine. This is another reason why I'm so enjoying this rabbit hole that I've fallen down. It is because I've always been worried about what people make of my emotions and how I treat serious subjects. But that's something that's going to get better with time. It's like I said, I'm meeting myself for the first time in like 20 years. I've got to get to know him for a while, and it's, like I said, it's tremendous fun. I'm experiencing more positive outbursts, we'll call it that, where it's just me vibing by myself. But it's interesting, again, it's interesting experiencing that, having not experienced it for so long. And unlike other examples I've given where I have to sort of rally myself and sort of go, you're autistic, so, you might want to get it together. I don't have to do that with these this erratic behaviour I display, by positive erratic behaviour. I haven't had to say any, I haven't had to prompt anything. It's just been happening. But I think actually, and this is just as I'm saying it now, I think it has been happening all along. But I am endorsing it more instead of sort of going, why are you behaving like this? I stop it. I more sort of go, I will just start laughing, because the whole reason I'm making weird sounds to begin with is to make myself laugh. I invented a whole song about toilet paper earlier. I am a little bit depressed that I can't remember the song, but that's life in the fast brain. 1 minute it's there, next minute it's gone. I was I had a random memory of Arin Hanson. Arin Hanson. He's one half of the Game Grumps. He's also known for his flash animations that he used to do back on Newgrounds back in the day. The Awesome series. You had like Metal Gear Awesome, Gears of Awesome, not Gears of Awesome. He basically did a load of like flash animations, and I remember reading somewhere that he's actually autistic, and I suddenly, like, now that I understand more about autism, like my respect for him has like quadrupled, because he's basically like bottling all of that spazzy energy and somehow keeping connected with it long enough to make animations of it. And that to me is so impressive, because like when you think of like random shit that just makes you laugh, not only can you forget that you thought it because it's just a random funny thing that's popped into your head, but to stay connected with it and to stay focused on the fact that it is funny and that it would be worthwhile to make like an animation of, because animation isn't easy. It takes a very long time, especially when it's hand drawn. I mean, his was done on computer, but I still believe it was, there were less tools to cheaply animate back then. Back then, in the yesteryear of 2010s, I think it might have been before then, because I think he was sort of OG at the time where YouTubers were OGs, but yeah, but it kind of got me thinking about, there's been so many things going through my head. Like when I talk about masking for 20 years, like one of the things that's going through my head is weight and my weight gain. And this is really interesting because at the moment, not sure if I've mentioned it, I've been getting into aerobics, and I'm really enjoying. Well, I was enjoying it until I blew out this shoulder, and it's really difficult because of playing the guitar. I've blown out this elbow, so this arm is just like off limits now. It's like a squiddy tentacle arm at the moment, But I think like I'm starting to get back into sports and stuff because I'm feeling like the high energy side of myself coming back, and I started to wonder if there's a correlation between when I talk about masking, I realise masking is a thing that autistic people have a tendency to do, as do people who aren't autistic. As a wise man, you should know this film, once said, "That's right, Wendy, we all wear masks, metaphorically speaking." You know, right? But for me, I experienced it as like a heavy event that happened, that existed for a prolonged amount of time. Like nowadays, I have to deal it as it happens. I have to, as nowadays, like I feel like the mask is coming on and off as it would an ordinary autistic person, and I kind of want to keep one eye on that. But I want to keep one eye on it because of what I feel it did to me over the course of 20 years. And that was when I left the nest and I experienced university, which was the single most God, why didn't I work out I was autistic back then? The signs were there, it's literally like you are living and breathing overload. And I think it ruined me nearly beyond all recognition looking back at it. And that's a really hard thing to live through, especially being someone that takes so much solace in art. It's given me an incredibly complicated relationship with art, and with art, with what I make of art, and with what art makes of me. When I went to this alleged hub of art, only to feel violated and tormented over and over again every waking second. You're living on dorms, you're living in like it was called the student village where we were, and it's just like you are wall to wall people absolutely everywhere. If you want to take some time to yourself, everybody wants to know why you're taking time for yourself. They don't get it. And you start to run out of excuses, and you start to feel on display no matter what do you know what? I cannot describe how, like, I remember the tantrum I had when I was leaving university, because I didn't finish university. I left at the end of the first year, and I remember destroying everything in my room. I went fucking crazy. Like I smashed up a computer, I broke an old hard drive of mine, I smashed up my printer, a laptop. I did it was about £7,000 worth of damage. I just lost my shit. And it's funny because it's one of those, I've always remembered that day, I've always remembered that experience, and I've never understood how it got that bad, and now I feel like I do, and this is why this whole, I know I'm making video after video right now talking about autism, but hopefully you understand why. Hopefully it's a little bit evident as to why. And I think, following on from the self-harm video yesterday, talking about that, that particular episode is a huge exhale of energy. When you think about, I'm not saying this is specifically how it works, but when you think about masking and you think about trying to keep yourself contained, I almost see violent or unruly stimming, let's put it that way, as like a coiled spring going off. Like you're trying to push yourself down to give off the illusion of normality as you perceive normality, your estimation of what normality is. First of all, that is so much mental energy, because you are estimating something that you don't entirely understand. And so you're trying to pretend to be something you're not understanding, and that is restricting your physical movements, because you don't know what to do with your body. Only your mind is engaged. So you are mentally exhausted, but your body is under exercised. So when you have an outburst, or sometimes it can be more innocent, like a form of stimming, or a more innocent form of stimming. But when you have that outburst, it's almost like the brain is barely functional and the body is just fucking going mental. It's given me quite an entertaining image in my head, but again, there's a dark side to it, you know, but it is literally like your body is spazzing out, but your head is like, ah. But I think about that all funneling into my weight. And when I say my weight, just because I'm not big doesn't mean that I'm not unhealthy. You know, it's when you think about diet, when you think about exercise and staying active and all that sort of stuff, I was that until I went to university. I was perfectly functional. I was exercising like twice a day before I went to university, and I hit university and suddenly I couldn't do it anymore, and I didn't want to do it, and I think it was like an intenseness of self-conscious there. It wasn't good, and I feel like I mean, like I said, I think that's why I've latched onto aerobics, because it's a great opportunity to, I don't know, like just sort of cut loose a little bit. You know, I look at like a lot of the things that I like, and a lot of the things that I like are quite high energy. And it's weird because I was looking at a lot of like bands that I like and things like that, like Iron Maiden. Oh, it's heavy metal, as you know, but it's a very specific kind of heavy metal. I like songs that have a lot of changes in them. I like songs that have a lot of elevation in them, and I've seen memes about this. It's a little bit difficult for me to relate specifically to the memes I've seen about it, because they're usually using music that I would not be caught dead listening to. But I'm seeing their reactions to elevations in the music that I feel like I've experienced in the music that I'm listening to. But as well, a lot of the vocalists I listen to, they have very their voices are capable of very high-pitched voices. Now, with heavy metal, to me, there's a very distinct difference between going high-pitched for the sake of going high-pitched and going high-pitched because it makes sense in the song. And the former sticks out like a sore thumb, and I don't like it. When I hear a singer going high-pitched, you know when it's not supposed to be there. You know when they're just trying to show off what they can do, you know? But there's a lot of singers that I enjoy that have these big high-pitched voices, or at least they're capable of the higher notes. I mean, you've got like guys like Bruce Dickinson, Ronnie James Dio. I think they're two of my favourites. But then you got Axis, who if you don't know, that's actually my favourite band of all time. AXXIS. Do you know what? There's lots of bands called Axis, AXIS, just one X, and they're all really good. They're all really good, as is AXXIS. I was always tempted to do like a top 10 bands called Axis video. You know, like number 1, Axis. Number 2, Axis. And I was always going to have my favourite band, Axis, as an honourable mention, disqualified because they added an extra X. Because when they started off, they were just one X. But at some point, I think it was like after their first or second single, they added another X. I'm not sure why they did that. But their lead singer, I don't know how to pronounce his name exactly, Bernard Weiss. I'm going to go with Weiss. He's a German man, in case you don't know. But his name is spelled W-I-E double S, but I believe it's not double S. I think that might be an international way of spelling, because he's got one of those. I've seen his name written like the double S, the German character. I forget what it's called now. You know, it looks like a B with a tail hanging down. You know what I mean? So it's W-E-I-B-S, German thing. But he's like one of my favourite singers of all time, and he's got a very distinctly high-pitched voice, especially back when they first started in '87. Like another one of my favourites is Freedom Call. Now, Freedom Call, it's alarming how many times the word gay is used in reviews of Freedom Call. And, you know, the lead singer sings with a higher pitch voice. They are a power metal band, so there's a lot of fantasy and stuff like that. One of the jokes was that if you plant a Freedom Call album, a rainbow will grow. And I've had no proof of that, but I really hope that is true. That they're such a good band, though. I also saw the term petal metal. But also, I've heard Freedom Call themselves using the term happy metal, and I'm all right with that, you know. But it's interesting, sort of being able to pinpoint more accurately the kind of heavy metal I like, because you know, when I'm not going to use any derogatory words or terms or anything. I have been known to. With heavy metal as it has evolved, and I see it as considerably more insecure than it used to be. You know, you look at the roots of heavy metal. Heavy metal, when it started, it was more chill. It was more cool. It was more, you know, you had more of a groove to it. You know, at some point, you got the thrash stuff coming in, and that wasn't so bad, but it kind of wouldn't stop, and it kept going in that direction. I don't know. That it might just be splintering off into preferences, but for me, I don't like it. Sometimes there are a few that break their whole life. I've just side talked about bollocks, haven't I? As usual, I've come off with an opinion, then I backtracked. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. But it's interesting because a lot of this stuff comes under art, and you know what you appreciate about art. And I think it was Ed in the comment section of the previous video who said. Well, apparently my internet isn't working. Well, screw you. It's probably because Windows 11 was designed by a 12-year-old. But anyway, he said something along the lines of like, when did like Autistic become autistic or something like that. I'm not sure if it was words of an unbeliever, but I liked the guy, so who cares? But I think it's a fair comment because, I mean, one thing a lot of people overlook is that the root of art is pain. That is the root of all art. No, you know, the softest, fluffiest things still come from a gruesome part of the heart that's really quite wounded. It doesn't mean, you know, you're wrong or mental or anything like that. Everybody has that part of them, you know, because life just isn't a perfect thing, and with that pain we create art. You know, it's why, you know, look at bit of a dark example, but Chester, I can't remember his surname, Bennington, I think. Chester from Linkin Park. Yeah, people say, you know, oh, how can a millionaire commit suicide and stuff like that? Well, I'm like, well, his art. I mean, don't get me wrong, his art was actually quite on the nose. Like the lyrics may as well have written, "I will kill myself on this date," but. The point is that those lyrics seemed that real because they were coming from a really painful place, and money isn't a cure all, you know. But I feel like art is going to inevitably get associated with autism, because especially when there's situations with autism not being diagnosed. Like that churns people up inside, you know. Like that's just like it grows and distills and morphs inside you over time. If you don't know what's going on, you're the avenues and complexity that your brain will just rifle through trying to work things out, and a lot of the time people have developed skills and crafts trying to figure out life. I mean, myself, I mentioned this in my first autistic video, the A-bomb video, that I have thousands and thousands and thousands of scripts that I have written over the time, and it is just characters talking to each other. It is just fictional people interacting with one another to teach me logic and consideration. If this situation happens to character A and character B is reacting, what are the different ways that a person could react to that? You know, it's like unintentionally, I've been studying how human beings work, and then I correlate that with the amount of chat shows that I watch, which I just sort of go into like a wormhole. And then there's that on top of the comedies where you're studying the humour of society, which is why studio audiences, I think, are always important. People don't think they are, and they think that they're stupid or whatever. I think collectively it's a necessary thing in comedy so that we can all learn humour together. And those that complain about it, I think, well, I'm not going to say what I think about them, because I have particular accusations about that particular kind of person, but I'll keep that to myself for now. But it's all this sort of stuff that makes me think about the link between art and autism, and that's why, one of the main reasons why I've been really enjoying talking about this on this channel. Because, you know, a little while back I renamed the channel Giles Hellier's Dark Arts and Crafts. It's part of my ongoing adventure to find a sense of identity on YouTube. And I'm not going to keep that title, but this is it. I want to marry art and autism. It just seems like how I have survived over the years, it has been with art, and I don't see any reason why that can't be the basis of this channel. Those two linked. It's like I said, I can make the exact same content that I was intending to make, which was, you know, drawing videos, sculpting videos, talking about characters that I've written, characters I've developed, and stuff like that. There's a few autistic characters I wrote for. I developed these characters before the consideration that I was autistic, and they are my favourite characters to write for. What a bloody surprise! But I like the idea of making art videos, but the focus isn't exactly the actual art being created, but the reason why it's being created. You know what I mean? Like the meaning of it, what's behind it, just using it as an excuse to spark a subject and to enjoy more conversation about this sort of thing, you know? Because I you know, as evidenced by the videos, I can talk until the cows come home, and it's something that I've always enjoyed, this specific subject, and it gives me a chance to talk about the things that I love in a way that isn't so isn't too aggressive or pushy, you know, like you bring it in as a subject, as opposed to like something that I need other people to like, you know. Like I can talk about bands and stuff like that, but I'm not telling you to go listen to them. I'm telling you why I like them, and why I like them is a conversation in and of itself. And when people talk about that then makes me able to hear other people talking about bands they like, even if it's not the genre that I'm into. You know, they'll be like, I like this because that, and I'm like, well, I don't think much of the band, but I like hearing why you like it, you know. I don't know how clear that is. I don't know how clear that is. And I got to admit, I'm at the end of this video, and I have absolutely no idea what to call this video. It's a bit freeform, really. But yeah, we talked about like bloody everything under the sun. But hopefully I'll get better at this at some point. You never know. Anyway, I'm going to leave it here. Do you know, I made a coffee for this, and I haven't had a single sip of this coffee for the entire video. There we go. Now I can feel not so bad about making it. Thanks very much for watching, everyone on YouTube. Take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you very, very soon. See you later.